This article deals with my reflections on teaching humanities for 20 years, geography and history. And I make three basic points. Firstly, when it comes to geography and the issues of sustainable development, I make the point that we are made in God's image and therefore we are problem solvers. So rather than having a negative approach, to have a positive approach and see how can we solve the problems that we're facing, whether they're problems of town planning, problems to do with plastics, problems to do with the environment, problems to do with resources. These can all be dealt with positively. And I actually quite like Prince William's Earthshot for the same reasons. He concentrates on the hopeful agenda of what are the solutions to the problems, rather than what can become actually a very negative and anxiety creating agenda that we get foisted on our children. And in fact, the evidence suggests that our children are now suffering from quite high levels of anxiety because of the constant threat of climate change. And a positive message based around the idea that we are made in God's image. But actually, ultimately, we ought to cry out to God for help. I was reminded of the story of Jesus in the boat, and the disciples thought that they could solve all the problems of the boat in the storm. Until the very last minute, when the boat was about to sink, they actually asked Jesus for the first time to help. Maybe it'd be better to ask Jesus earlier on. And likewise, if we were to truly repent of our rejection of God and ignoring him and actually turn to him, we might be surprised at the wisdom and the help that he would give us. The second issue is to do with history and the what we might call null curriculum. The fact that history may often just simply ignore the effect of Christianity. It's interesting, some secular historians are beginning to come around to this. Tom Holland, with his book Dominion, has observed that Christianity has had a major effect on the world, and it has been primarily a positive effect. And in history, there are lots of examples of that. Strangely enough, I teach about the Prohibition movement in America in the 1920s, which was a disaster. But its antecedents, which was the temperance movements in both America and in Britain, did much good work. And you could see in some ways the football clubs and the societies that were created out of the temperance movement, including the, believe it or not, Thomas Cook, who was a temperance person, created the modern travel industry. Because what people were doing was trying to think, well, if people can't go to the pub to drink alcohol, what else can they do? And it was those positive alternatives that actually created quite a lot of our leisure industries today. And of course, there's the tremendous field of missionaries. Missionaries get an unfair and quite negative press report. Actually did amazing good. And again, one has to be careful that a lot of history is skewed against Christianity in a way that's quite unreasonable. Missionaries created a great deal of good and did a lot for the world. And they're quite wonderful stories as well. But the third thing I find really exciting about both history and geography is the opportunities it gives to look at the Bible from a point of view that how does history support the Bible, how does geography support the Bible, and the whole website World History 3967 goes towards showing how both history and geography abundantly support the Bible as a revelation from God. And as a philosopher, I think divine revelation is the most important source of knowledge anyone can have, because it's from God, who does not lie and who knows everything. And such knowledge is always going to be infinitely more secure than human knowledge, which is always transitory, quite often can be wrong, and is overturned by future events. So, thank you for listening.